Hi, I'm Harriet Kelsall, the Bespoke Jeweller, and today I'm going to be doing some cuttlefish casting, and this definitely isn't something you should do at home unless you're a really experienced jeweller, but we thought as we're filming stuff, because we're all stuck at home at the moment, we thought it might be quite fun to film it and just show you how it's done. And the reason we were inspired to do it is we went to Guernsey recently because I was doing a talk there, and the kids and I found a load of cuttlefish and some interesting shells on the beaches, and I was chatting to them about it, and they were quite interested in how it's done. It's got quite an old-fashioned way of casting, and so I thought, well, let's pick up some cuttlefish and give it a go. So yeah, you can find cuttlefish on the beach in many places, like these ones. But if you haven't got a beach nearby, then you can buy them from pet shops. I think they're used for canaries or something, I'm not sure, but you can go to the pet shop and you can choose them. It's quite good to choose them in the flesh because you want one with quite a big belly on it, because we're going to flatten off some of the belly and saw it in half and join it together, and we want there to be enough depth to carry the depth of what we're going to cast. And when it comes to what you're going to cast, today we're going to hopefully make a shell pendant. It's quite a good idea to have something with quite a lot of texture in it, quite a lot of, up and down and movement. I often find that, if you try and do something very smooth, it doesn't work so well, but this is a good knobbly shell, which we thought was quite fun and might make an interesting pendant, and it will give lots of interest. Along with the texture of the cuttlefish itself, it should produce hopefully quite a nice effect. So the first thing to do, the first thing that I've been doing is filing some of the side off this. It's very, very soft. I've just got this bowl under here. I don't normally have a bowl under my bench, but I've just got it here to carry this dust because it is a very dusty process. I was looking online and someone was saying that they do this by grating it against a neighbour's wall, which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, you can do it outside if you want. But I just want to flatten off a little bit of that. Can you see the flap that I've just produced there? Because that's where we're going to join it together. Actually, I think I'll just do a bit more. So I think that's probably flat enough now. We shall see. Then I'm just going to get quite a big hacksaw. And I'm going to saw that in half along the middle. It's quite easy to saw in the part that's got the fine texture in, and then the back bit, which is the sort of bonier part of the cuttlefish, is a bit tougher. So yeah, I've cut that in half now. It hasn't actually cut that cleanly. It's actually quite tricky to cut because this part's really soft and easy to get your saw through, but the back part, the sort of bony part, is quite hard, so it does take a little while. This isn't the best job I've ever done, but that'll do. And you can see what we're going to do is we're going to be putting it together like that. I actually think I could do with a little bit more flat on it, so I'm just going to go a bit further than I did before. That's pretty good. It's nice and close on the join. That should do. And what we'll do, this cuttlefish, by the way, when this is going to be a destructive delivery. When we cast into this, it's going to burn the cuttlefish. The cuttlefish will be completely destroyed by this process, and then we'll be able to hopefully get a nice shell pendant out if it works. So I'll put that one there. So the first thing to do is to think about the position. So I want this shell to be kind of this way up, so that we get the fat part of the shell up here. I'll put a runner into it to sort of to put the metal in like that, sort of pyramid shaped runner into the shell. So it's going to go that way up, and then so I think what I'm going to do first of all is press this shell into here as my starting point. So just make sure it's nice and clean, and then I'm going to put it on here actually. Hold it in my hand so you can see, and then I'm going to just press that shell. Now there's a bit of a technique to it. I'm kind of rocking it a little bit as I press it, but you don't want to move it about too much because obviously you want it to be an accurate representation of the shell, and if you move it about too much, it's not going to be that anymore. Right, I think that's just about finished. I've kind of got to the widest point here. Let's take that out and have a look. That looks pretty good to me. That's looking quite shell-like. I think that's going to be quite interesting. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a sort of spiky thing and a ruler, and I'm just going to draw a centre line for myself there. I probably should have done this before I started actually. And then I'm going to see if I can just indicate to myself how I want that channel to go in there. Now I'm going to scoop away some of the cuttlefish here. This bit's just going to be where the silver goes in. So that's looking pretty good to me for my one side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to join it up like that, and so that I can really think about marking off where I'm going on this side. Now I'm going to put the shell into the place, and I'm going to line that up carefully. And I'm going to press that together so that I keep it roughly in line with where I've marked. That's going to make the other side of the mould there. That's looking pretty good. Let's have a look. Yeah, pretty happy with that. Just put that back in there. Check it's really well lined up. Check it's nice and flat, because what we don't want is too much metal to be escaping out of the bottom. So that's looking pretty good to me. I'm also just going to, because I think when I haven't got the shell in here, it's quite hard to line it up. So to make it easier, I'm just going to do some little marks like that, because when I'm lining it up, I want it to be able to be in exactly the right position. And obviously I'm not going to have the shell in at that point because it'll be empty. There we go. That should do. So now it's time to take the shell out. Thank you very much, Mr. Shell. Put this together, and then the next step is to bind it with binding wire. Right, so I spent some time getting it all lined up and really tight so that I can't see any gaps too much. There are a few gaps actually at the top, so I hope this one's going to work out, but not too much. And you need it to have a tight seal all the way around, and you need to be able to be sure that your cuttlefish are lined up. So I've done that. I've now kind of been looking on my bench for bits of silver I can use. You want sort of fairly clean silver. That is just, I mean, I'm just using bits of scrap that I've got left over from various things. You kind of need more than you think, because it's got to fill that whole sprue up. So yeah, that should do it. This is really stable. You know, I don't want that to be falling over when it's hot. This is just a little bit of flux. You can use borax. I'm just using a different kind of flux here, just to help things along. And then I'm just gonna light my torch. This is a propane and oxygen torch, which, oops, sorry, it's a little bit fierce there. Should concentrate on what I'm doing. So that's the propane, and just introduce the oxygen. Make sure I've got a reducing flame now. I'm just going to turn the light off. So yeah, so then it's just a matter of slightly bigger flame there. Matter of heating it up. And you do need to have a pretty. Actually, I'll just keep my flame away from the cuttlefish. I don't want to burn it too soon. So I'm just going to melt down all of the silver. Right, now I've been heating this for a few minutes, so it's really liquid, as you can see. I dropped a bit of more flux in it as well. I've had to sort of change my angle on it because I was worried I was going to set fire to the cuttlefish too much. I always forget how hot this gets, which is a bit silly because I should know that by now. So I'm going to pick it up with these tongs, and I'm going to pour it into the cuttlefish. Hopefully that's all in there. Let's put that flame out there. So that, as you can see, is probably going to destroy the cuttlefish. Well, it will definitely destroy the cuttlefish. It takes quite a while to cool, so I'll probably in a minute drop it into this bowl of water here to cool it down a bit faster. But I'm just giving it a minute. Right, so I've just dropped it in the water because I just was impatient. You can just wait for it to cool down, but it takes a long time. It's still pretty warm, actually. Just going to cut my binding wires. See how it all worked out. This is the exciting part. Oh, it looks like we've got something there. Not quite sure what yet. Let's have a look. Put that in the water. As you can see, the cuttlefish has just completely destroyed it. It absolutely stinks, by the way. But here we go. What have we got? Actually, it's not too bad considering. So you can see we've got our silver form now, to switch the light on. And I don't think it was fantastically lined up. So that's going to take me more cleaning up than I would have liked. I think I was sort of rushing too much for the filming. But you can see I've got the basic form of the shell there. This part's the sprue, which we'll saw off and use again. And then I'm going to clean it all up. It doesn't really matter that it's a bit rough at the join because I can quite easily clean that up with my tools. Quite pleased with the way that part looked. I wasn't sure how that was going to work so well. So I'm now going to spend some time with my normal jewellery tools, probably quite a lot of time, an hour or two, fiddling about with it, with files, and hopefully turning it into something that looks a bit prettier. Right, so I've spent a bit of time on this, probably somewhere between half an hour and an hour on it, and I've cleaned up all that edge where I hadn't lined it up brilliantly. Actually, it wasn't too hard to clean up, and because it's quite an organic thing, a shell, you can kind of get away with a bit of that. Unfortunately, I don't have a proper polishing wheel here because I'm working from home at the moment, as we all are. So I've only been able to give it a fairly basic polish with my my pendant motor. But it's not bad like this actually. I quite like it because you almost don't want to get the very high shine that you'd normally get on a shell because it's quite sort of organic thing. And so yeah, I've just popped. I've soldered a little loop onto the back. In order to make sure I can sort of thread a chain through. Quite like the idea of wearing this sort of as a long pendant. Yeah, just a bit of fun. And as you can see, it's not a bad copy of the original. You know, just in form like that. So yeah, that's basically it. And if I wanted a higher shine, I could spend a lot longer, you know, tidying this up with files. I've been using files and saws to sort of tidy it up, and buff sticks and so on. So I could spend a bit longer, get a higher shine. It actually takes quite a long time to get it like that. So I think I'll probably stop here and leave it at that. There we go.